It is October 28th, 2024, and I'm making a video to document my progress on my bipedal robot project. So the objective of this project is to create a two-legged robot that can stand without any help using a machine learning algorithm. Here's the robot. It uses two drone motors. One is for the hip. You can see freedom on the hip. And then one is for the knee. There is a pulley that goes from the motor to the knee. And then you can see it better on the other side because that part's taken apart. There is a gear that goes from the hip to this motor. And then there's another degree of freedom for the hip. And each one of these drone motors has a magnetic encoder on the back that communicates with the Arduino Mega hidden in this mess of wires. You can see on the back you've got your 4 FOC controllers, you have your 2 servo motors, and your I2C multiplexer. I mean, that's just for the magnetic encoders to all communicate with Arduino. And the Arduino is really just a hub for all the electronics, all the actuators, all the sensors, all the computation. The algorithm is housed on my computer. So it's not going to be completely wireless. There's going to be some power cables going to my power supply, and there'll be a communication cable going to my computer. And the computer is going to actually house the algorithm. I am going to simulate the robot in Gymnasium. I'm going to have a virtual version of it and train it in a virtual world, and then send the algorithm, instructions from the algorithm to this robot, because the algorithm is actually just going to be on the computer, and then commands are going to go to this robot. So I'm going to use TensorFlow, which will make my job a lot easier in making that algorithm. But that's all going to be written in Python, and the computer is going to be, or the robot's going to be in C++. These gearboxes I have here are from a Hackaday post that I used, which a lot of my inspiration came from. This entire robot is a modified version of Tip Tap, the robot posted on Hackaday, which I'll link in the description. But he uses completely different electronics, so I had to modify literally every single piece of his design except for maybe the lower leg and the gearbox. Some of the problems I've faced so far, most of them have been with this motor and with this gearbox. The gearbox, you probably can't see it, but this gear will skip. The sun gear isn't in the exact middle, which hasn't been a big problem for the other motors, but I'm finding it to be a problem with this one. An even bigger problem that I've experienced for all the motors is the rod in the middle of these planet gears snapping. I tried to fix that with using PETG filament and coating it in super glue. That's worked somewhat, but I've never actually fully tested the robot, so we'll see if it'll last. One thing I'm worried about is these are drone motors, so they're supposed to be low torque, so I'm not 100% certain that they can hold the robot up. There's very few specifications on AliExpress where I bought it, but I have seen quite a few posts that said it should be far more than I actually need. I tried to test one of the legs mounted on this linear rail, but the way I had it mounted and the way it's designed is it acts as a lever and puts too much angular torque on this setup, so I never got it to work how it was supposed to. So it's kind of a gamble. I may have to redesign or reuse a different motor and then redesign according to that. Would be a big deal, but not too much of a big deal. But most of the hardware is done. I'm putting together final touches, and I'm testing it all out later today. So yeah. One more thing. I don't know what observations to feed into this algorithm. I'm not 100% sure which ones I'm going to use. Obviously, you're going to get the position of all the motors and the servo motors and the accelerometer. But I'm thinking of, on the foot, adding a pressure sensor of some sorts that can give you readings of how the foot's placed. Because right now the robot can't tell if it's even touching the ground, which I think might be a problem. But depending on how the simulation goes and what other stuff I read about machine learning and robotics later, we'll make that decision somewhat near in the future.